Greetings, dear chess fans and experts. This is FIDE Master Max Omariev with you, and today we're going to look at an instructive endgame between the World Chess Champion and the former Women's World Chess Champion. This is the game between Magnus Carlsen and Hou Yifan. Let's see who turned out to be stronger. Before we get to the endgame, let me quickly go over what we had in the opening and in the middle game. The opponents played flawlessly and did not pose any problems to each other. Magnus tried to push, but Hou Yifan defended brilliantly and nothing worked for Magnus. That was the position after the Petrov defense. It's a very strong variation for black. As we see, white has some sort of advantage, but it's very hard to implement it. So Magnus tries to shake the position, but it doesn't work. Hou Yifan defends everything, and with the most accurate moves. Magnus is famous for his ability to create problems on the spot, but even he can't do anything about Hou Yifan. She plays Queen f7. A little more accurate here would be Queen d1. She could even try an interception in this position. But actually, we have positional equality here. Queen f7 is not bad either. Preserves drawing chances, and here Carlsen realizes that he won't find anything in the queen ending and he makes one last attempt, suggests transfer to the pawn endgame, plays Queen c3. I'll hide the rest of the game from you. Here Hou Yifan reasonably accepted the offer to play the pawn endgame and played Queen takes c3. However, she could also play d4. The point is that this pawn is extremely difficult to get. After b4, it seems that king will move to c4 and take the pawn. But the thing is that soon as the king goes to b3, we check it and nothing works for white here. So this variation was also possible, but Hou Yifan decided to play the pawn endgame. And in fact, it has some problems. Black has three weaknesses here. The h6 pawn, because the king can go this route. The f5 pawn, because there's such a simple route, and the b7 pawn, through a5 to b6. Despite all this, black can make a draw in this pawn endgame. And now friends, I recommend you to pause the video and find the drawing idea for Hou Yifan. So dear friend, if you have found the move a5, you might be the future world champion because this move really makes a draw for black. You would draw with Magnus Carlsen in this game. The thing is that now there's no breakthrough through the a5 square. If we play b4, we don't even pay attention to the move b4 and we play h5, and on ba, h4. So we got rid of this weakness, the h6 pawn, because the king cannot break through here. Here we created a barrier for him. There are two weaknesses left. The king can go to e5, or white can drop the pawn and move king to a5. Black is able to cope with two weaknesses. Here we have a draw. Let's see how exactly it works. After, say, king d4, we just play king e6, do not let the king. On king b4, we must play king c7 to have time to meet the king after the pawn's sacrifice. If we play king e8, for example, white just plays a6 and breaks through like this. Here they win, of course. So king c7 has to be played. Now it makes no sense to play a6 because it gets taken, and king b7. That's how we meet the white king, and white can't do anything here. If they try to shake the position in any way, black just plays king b7, and potentially you can even lose with white. For example, if white plays cd here, white just loses because black king goes to c6. The c5 pawn will now fall. Well, for example, we play a5, just drop the d pawn. And it's obvious that this position is already lost for white. For example, on king e3, we just go around the side like this and take the pawn. So you should play very carefully here. Even for white, although there's an extra pawn. It was better to play king b4 here, and after a5 we create a barrier on the queen side. Now the king cannot break through here. We take and move our king to e6, and then black has no problems at all. King cannot break through to this flank or to this flank because there are such barriers here. If after a5 we play here, let's say cd, then we just play cd on king d4, king c6. Here, of course, you also have to calculate the variations. Only black can win here because their pawn moves faster. By the way, black wins. That's how we check and that's how we take the queen. So white shouldn't burn bridges here. They should admit that the position becomes a draw. Even Magnus would admit it. If we don't drop the pawn like this, but instead play c3, then we play king c8. On c4, we play dc and king d7. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the corresponding squares. Here's the thing. When white king is on c4, black's king must stand on d7 in order to have time to deal with the two weaknesses. Let me remind you that black has two weaknesses. The f5 pawn, the possibility of the white king passing through, and the b7 pawn because the king can break through a5 and white will drop their pawn by a6. And exactly on the d7 square, black king is optimally located to have enough time to cover this and this. Let's see, for example, if white plays king d4, then everything is clear, we play king e6, and that's it. We don't let the king to e5. There are also corresponding squares, by the way. When white's king stands on d4, black king must stand on e6. Exactly like this. When white king is on c4, black king is on d7. These are the squares you need to remember, and it will then be easier to make a decision in a concrete position. In the case of king b4, the king should be on c7 or c8. These are the corresponding squares. It makes no difference whether on c7 or c8, so in the case of a6, ba, and king a5, we can get to the defense in time. a5 and b7 are also the corresponding squares. I think you get the idea. If white king stands on b4, black king has to be on c7 or on c8. If it's on d4, black must stand on e6. If white king's on c4, black king's on d7. So these are the corresponding squares. This way it's easy to determine how to make a draw. For example, if white plays king c3, then we play king e6, creating a threat to king d5. On king d4, we can play king f6. We just must do that to prevent king from moving to e5. In the case of king c4, king e6. This is, by the way, also a possible square to make a draw. Either black king should be on e6 or on d7 when white king's on c4. The thing is that here on king d4, we play king f6, we don't let the king in. In the case of a breakthrough on the queen side, king b4, we play king d5. Here again it gets specific. Black king takes c5, and here we need to play king d4. This is exactly how a draw is done. There is no other way. In the case of king b6, we're just pushing our pawn forward. White, of course, queen earlier, but we also have time to do it, and here even black plays to win, because their king is closer to white's pawns. So actually, it wasn't a difficult draw for the world female chess champion, she just had to find the move a5. If you want, you can of course still dig into this endgame. But I think I've managed to conduct the main ideas that we have a positional stronghold here. Black's king has time to cover the weaknesses on b7 and on f5. And that's how we get rid of the weakness on h6. In the game, Hou Yifan doesn't play a5, but h5. And as you have understood, this move loses. Unfortunately, Hou Yifan got confused, probably tired by this point in the game, and let herself get it wrong. After king b4, king c8, white's king just breaks through to b6. We pass the turn, and now a very easy win. We play b5 and c3. Black is in Zugzwang after this move again, and here Hou Yifan just gave up. The thing is that if black plays king d7, white plays king b6, c6, and this is how we win. We take all these pawns one after another, so after the move c3, Hou Yifan admitted her defeat. Well, what can we say about the game? As we've seen, Hou Yifan was absolutely on equal footing with the world champion. Hou Yifan had already made history as the youngest female world champion, and I hope she can prove that women can fight at the same level as men, including in chess. So friends, I thank you for your attention. Give this video a like if you liked it, and if you want me to analyze more endgames like this one. Subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to keep up to date with all our latest videos. Also, check out our Telegram channel and Instagram, where we post only the latest news in the world of chess. Keep playing and setting chess, set bold goals, and I'll see you in the next one.